You're listening to WKDW Radio 97.5 and KDWRadio.com, broadcasting from the beautiful city of Northport, Florida, and 97.5 FM is your emergency broadcasting network for the city of Northport. So hurricane season is upon us. Turn to 97.5 FM for any emergency update needs. The station and the city is connected, and we're here for you. I've got a very special guest in the house today, Mr. Jerome Fletcher, our city manager. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you, John, for having me on yet again.
Yeah, well, it's always nice to have you on. We had Alice White on last week, or last month. We had Commissioner Emmerich on Monday. We've got some shows coming up. I know that I'm working on a show with Robin San Vicente in the future here, trying to get all of the historians that talk about Warm Mill Springs and the funding live on the air, and try to change people's hearts and maybe influence some minds. And so, you know, Warm Mill Springs is a vital part of some of the topics out there. But if we were looking at let's take this conversation as you do at City Hall with your city meetings. Let's go down to some agenda items, which we never do.
Right.
So the agenda that we have today is really to educate people. So first off, I want your stance on Warm Mill Springs and the influences that are out there, and a quick overview of how the city and staff are looking at things right now.
Okay, sure. Thank you, John. So first of all, you know, Warm Mill Springs is very important to the 65-year anniversary of history that we're celebrating with the city of Northport this year. We just had the birthday party on this Tuesday of this week, and Warm Mill Springs, it holds a special place for a lot of people in this city. And you talk about the things that has been accomplished in the 65 years of being here. We now are looking to make sure that Warm Mill Springs is prioritized for buildings. You know, we still think that that's a priority, whether it's 1, 2, or 3 of the buildings. There has to be some decisions made on how to bring them up to code, not only for the hurricane that we need to make sure they're prepared for, but also for so they can be insured as well. But we have gotten, since March, we got some direction from the commission to open the doors back up. And we have heard from a lot of good people. And we've gone over that in one of our recent commission meetings. And I do believe that there's a way to make sure that the environment is preserved in a way that satisfies a lot of the activists that are concerned about Warm Mill Springs, whether you're talking about a conservation easement that we talked to John Thaxton about, or whether you're talking about separating the 2 parcels and focusing on the lake itself versus the other acreage itself. I think there's a win-win for everyone in there. But at the end of the day, you have to make sure that you preserve the history of the springs and make sure that we show it attention now that we have not always shown it in its history, and show the city how important it is to us overall.
Absolutely. And you know, I said this to Pete on Monday. You have to appreciate the ability to rally the citizens to come to City Hall in support of something. And I also mean this the other way. If you're quiet out there and you're not rallying anything, even in opposition,
right,
you're not going to get heard. And so how would you encourage the citizens, whether be it for a topic or not for a topic, what would you tell the citizens of Northport as the city manager on how to really get involved?
Well, my theory has always been very plain and simple. You can say whatever you want to whoever you want, as long as you are professional and respectful. When you lose those 2 things, you lose the audience you're trying to reach, and then people tune you out and you don't get anywhere. So I think that in order to be productive, you have to approach people the right way. And we've had a lot of people who have approached us the right way in dealing with Warren Mineral Springs and how they've organized themselves and come with thoughts and ideas and, solutions and possibilities. And then you've had people who have resorted to tactics of being uncivil to public officials and, employees such as myself. And that's never going to work. So however you organize yourself, it just needs to be in a way that would allow you to be the most successful. And we don't know everything. We don't pretend to know everything, but we have constraints, and most of them are monetary as it relates to what we can do or should do. And then you start getting into the philosophies of the 5 commissioners who are the ultimate decision makers on what gets done. So you blend all of that together, and then you have what should be a good exercise in community engagement to make sure that all voices are heard towards a solution that will inevitably come. It doesn't mean you're going to get your way all the time. Doesn't mean we will get our way all the time, but that's part of the discussion and part of the journey.
And we've had that group, that same type of, not that group, but the same ideal group happened with the widening of Price Boulevard. And they came forward, and things have kind of changed throughout of how that started. But can you give us an update on how the widening of Price Boulevard is going? I just went down Price today, and a septic company was out pumping out one of the residential properties there on Price Boulevard. And when you do that, you shut half of Price Boulevard down. We desperately need the 4 lanes opened up on Price Boulevard. Where are we at today?
So Price Boulevard is moving along, and I think everyone's proud of us getting the redesigns that are coming back in from Hurricane Ian and the damage that it did. So Hurricane Ian made us redesign some of the work that was going to be done on Price Boulevard, but now we're getting those plans back in. We actually have a public meeting of the Price Widening Project on Saturday, July 20th at 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the George Mullen Activity Center. So we encourage people to come out and hear the latest and greatest and new news as that project continues to go forward. It's fully funded for that phase. It's going to be such a game changer for that particular piece of our transportation thoroughfare for the city. So the people who have said for years that, we should be focused on widening Price Boulevard, we do know that's one of the accomplishments that this particular commission has been successful in, along with some other things. But we want you to come out and ask questions and get involved in these specific, what I call legacy projects. This is a project that, has been looked at for a while, many years, but now we're doing something about it. So I think I'm proud, and I know the commissioners are proud as well.
And part of the delay in that was Ian, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, that was the delay. So Ian delayed the project because we had to go redo the design work for the project. But now that's finally coming back to us, and now we're sort of moving forward. So we're in a good spot.
And just a reminder for everybody, because we just talked about Ian a little bit, and we've got more people online right now. 97.5 FM in the city of Northport, your broadcasting emergency capabilities for every citizen in Northport and surrounding areas, because the transportation to and from areas is of vital importance. And I want to stay there for a minute, because I think that people need to understand what that means from City Hall to the residents.
Yes.
Can you talk about that for a second?
Yeah. So during any natural disaster, and especially one as difficult as Hurricane Ian, you have the lessons learned and what people feedback came to you. And we heard that, there wasn't enough communication even during the emergency. So we're grateful that you stepped up and stepped forward to say, hey, look, I would like to sort of fill that void and that gap. And we're making sure that, as the next hurricane approaches us at some point in time, we want to have you here on site with us to get the best, most current information out to the most direct audience. So I think that that's going to be a game changer once, the power goes out and people have to rely on different mechanisms to get information. We feel like we are going to be able to turn a huge corner and have you right here with us and provide information that won't have to go through multiple steps or multiple people to get out. You'll be right here. We'll give it to you, and we'll get it out as soon as possible. I don't think that's being done anywhere around us, and I could be wrong. I don't want to speak.
Not. is not.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for all of our peer jurisdictions, but I know that it will be very important to the city of Northport residents.
So I'm going to speak to all those peer representatives out there as a representative for WKDW, as the operations manager now. We've done our research, we've done our due diligence on our side of that, and we cannot find another station or community radio station right now that has the capability that we're offering to the city of Northport. And this is not about the station. This is truly the station's commitment to the citizens and to City Hall to be the conduit of voices heard. And that's the importance of community radio. And that's what we brought to the city of Northport. And that's amazing to me, because you can take the radio station out of the process, because you guys actually have at City Hall the capability of going direct without us.
Right. But
and that's the unique position.
Absolutely. And, you know, from our standpoint, as we always are looking for ways to better serve the community, we want to keep evolving, keep our eyes and our minds open to how we can do that. And I think this is going to show people in a very concrete way. And you always remember how people were there for you or not there for you during some of your darkest hours. And we want to make sure that people can say that we improved upon this time from the last time.
So let's talk about another hot topic and another buzzer. How about the progression of the ULDC?
Yeah, so the ULDC is progressing quite nicely. I think that we always have to preface that by saying that, you know, this is not an undertaking that we just woke up one day and said, this would be a nice to do. This is one of the legacy projects that needed to be done so that we could match our rules with our intentions of growing the city, so that our citizens are not the only ones paying taxes that support our city. We want to make sure that the growth that is coming to this city is maximized so that we can build a better Northport while being responsible with our environment and our projects. But it is progressing along. The commission has had multiple meetings, workshops as of lately. And what you'll see is you're going to see the first and second reading come of the ULDC in late July. And I think the date of the second one might be August the 6th, if I'm not mistaken. Our team, Elena Ray and Lori Barnes and their staff, have been working very long hours to make sure that we get the ULDC done. I believe that there were people who thought we weren't going to get it done, but they are on track to making sure that that happens in the next few months. And then we're going to be able to move on as we enter into our new year, because these projects, whether it's widening Price Boulevard, whether it's Warm Middle Springs, the ULDC, these are legacy projects that have to be done, and we are doing them. So when you look at this commission, you got to give them the credit for what they're doing, which is taking on the hard problems and not, you know, kicking the can down the road.
So I kind of want to go back to the ULDC and how it has to happen, and kind of give a civics lesson real quick on this. As we build this ULDC, is it going to be everything everybody wants in one quick dose?
Well, and I think that's very unrealistic for anyone to think that it's going to be everything to everyone. Yeah. What we will say it will do is, because we always try to do the best for the most, is that we are looking at how to make this city the best place it could be. And there are instances where the worst case scenario scares people. Well, the worst case zoning scenarios that are in place now that are there should, in theory, scare people. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't happen that way. It happens over a long period of time when you're talking about things that people should really be concerned about. It's not sort of a flip the switch and now everyone should be in fear of things. What it does do is allow us to make sure that we're consistent in our code, that we are able to provide the best services in the best areas, and that the code is now updated to match the growth vision of our elected officials. They select the vision and the policy, and we go and execute it. So we're not executing on what we want to do. We're bringing to life what they have told us they want to be done. And that's how we work well together in our different government roles.
So I kind of want to hit this real quick. Are you responsible? And this is a direct question. Are you responsible for rewriting the ULDC? Is it Jerome Fletcher's ULDC?
No, it is not my ULDC. It is. This is a process that most jurisdictions go through every ever so often on a timetable. Ours was very outdated. It was sort of like our charter. It was not sort of revised or kept up to date with the current ongoings of what the city needs. So when you come in and you bring in a professional like Elena Ray, who has done this in multiple jurisdictions, and you see that the vision that you want to accomplish is handcuffed by the lack of consistency and updates in the UODC, we have to fix that and we have to change that. You can't expect to get there if the tool that is designed to get you there is not working in alignment with your vision. They have to be in alignment. And that's what we're doing now. And the commission, in my opinion, has done a good job of hearing those outliers of situations where we have heard people and come in and know that we are disrupting their life based on something we promised them earlier or promised them now. And, we made concessions for that. So people who say that, well, government doesn't listen, they're going to do what they want to do. We have examples where we can tell you and show you that, we have been able to be flexible, and the commission has allowed for some of those things to be resolved.
So I'm going to slide into a quick question about the position of the city manager, because you control everything. You put your stamp on everything and you approve everything. Now, that's not a question. Here's my question.
Right.
Is the city manager the voting entity that implements all of these changes?
No. So the city manager is responsible for the operations. So we do what we are told to do. And the majority of the board is what tells us what to do. They have expectations about what they want to get done. We use our professional expertise, our high-performing team, our experience, and the resources given to us in the budget to make those things happen. But the commissioners are the ones who are the decision makers as it relates to what gets done. We decide how it gets done in the best way within our organizational allowances.
And I just want to not throw staff under the bus by excluding them. Staff doesn't make that choice either, do they?
We make recommendations. We don't make policy. So what we do is we take our experience and say, we believe this is in the best effort of what you are trying to accomplish. And a lot of that is normally supplemented by outside independent third parties who also have that specialized expertise to help guide you at the same time. Our people, our staff, myself included, we spend many years and many times through education to get to where we are. We didn't just happen to fall into the roles that we're in. And we're very proud that the city has put a lot of good people in good places. And that's how we have good outcomes that happen from that. But at the same time, people have to understand and trust the people in these roles and know that they are there for the right reasons to do the right things.
So with city staff and the city manager collectively working on the ULDC as directed by the commission, are there any other subgroups that are out there, such as the Chamber of Commerce, that are helping along the way as outside influencers other than city staff and city manager?
Yeah, there are a couple of interest groups that have some skin in the game, so to speak. And so we bounce things off of them prior to the commission making their final decision. One, because they've asked us to, and they care about where we're going with some of these things, and they will be impacted by some of the decisions that the commission makes. But at the same time, you got to give credit to the commission for having an open mind to listening and including those groups and those individuals in some of these decision-making processes. It's not easy. And to have a chamber, so to speak, say, hey, look, we agree with this, we don't agree with that, here's why, and we agree with this, we don't agree with that. That's very valuable as you look at something that is going to be put into place, which can be changed, later. Everything that is put into place right now is not said to be 100% the right thing to do. So if you see something that is wrong, what do? You fix it, you adapt to it, and you say, we thought this was the right thing to do, but now you have to pivot and do something different. I think when people are so stubborn that they can't get off of their own spot and they think that, well, I made this decision and this is the decision that's going to be forever and ever in time to the day I die, that's not who you want to be leading your government. You want people who can sit back and say, hey, look, we made a mistake. Let's fix it.
So great answers. And I just want to remind the viewers right now, WKDW Radio, Facebook page, Real Talk Facebook page. If you're listening through social media and you have questions or comments, please post your comments and your questions. I'm going to be posting the questions. If they're directly related to anything we're discussing right now, please feel free to throw a comment or a question in. If it's not directly related to anything, go ahead and post your question, because I'm sure that Mr. Fletcher will stay on longer after if we don't have time to answer the questions. So a little bit of fun things to talk about now. How about the YMCA?
Oh, the YMCA is going to have a groundbreaking here in the next month or so, and that is going to be a very, very important impact to our community. They left with a sour taste in their mouth, but now they got the designs and the plans working together. We got to be very grateful to Jeff King at King Plastics, who they are the ones who are providing the land and building the actual facility. That is not coming out of city dollars or taxpayers' dollars. The YMCA is trying to fundraise for the FF&E, the furniture, fixtures, and equipment that goes in the building, and we're trying to help them with that. So we are really getting a gift into the city of Northport that will be located off of Toledo Blade and Price on the property of King Plastic. But, you know, we need more we need more childcare in this city, and we need more programming for our children. We are grateful for the Boys and Girls Club, but knowing that YMCA can help supplement that need on another part of our city is something that's going to be invaluable. Well,
let's talk about that other side of the city real quick and the reason why. We on this side of town, and I have to say we because I'm over here in what's kind of the newer side of town. It is developing, ever developing. There's more growth that's going to be happening out this way.
Mm-hmm.
But it is super nice to be able to have the YMCA as an anchor for this side of town.
Yes.
And I think it's going to be a game changer for a lot of people. Good influence. Positive influence. I was a YMCA member when I was a kid because of my grandmother. I learned how to swim at the YMCA, and we have the aquatic center is amazing at making sure all of our second graders get to go through classes of water safety. I don't know I don't know if you have an answer for this, but just talking about the YMCA is very sentimental to me because I did learn how to swim. I just taught my granddaughter Ellie how to swim because of all the things that the YMCA taught me way back in the day. And I got to say that too, because I'm a little old. But, you know, the aquatic center and the importance of what the aquatic center has brought to us. And I'm not talking about the economic side of it. I'm talking about the quality of what the aquatic center brings on the educational side of water safety to our younger citizens.
Right.
Is massively important. And I don't know if we've had a drowning death in Northport in recent years.
I haven't heard that we had, but
I don't think we have. And I bring this up because when I interview them, one of the real features about what the aquatic center does with the second graders is actually get them through to help prevent that. And I think that's a piece of the aquatic center that, you know, the people out there in our citizens world, they may not even know that we do that. And that's an important piece of the give back to the citizens of Northport.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, you said you don't want to talk about the economics of it. I think it needs to be said. The city operates many quality of life functions under its umbrella that are not designed to be money-making efforts. The goal of the city is not to make money off of the aquatic center. It is to provide something that without it being there, the quality of life would be diminished. Having the aquatic center there give people more of a reason to want to be here, to want to stay here, to want to have the activities for their children. We got 16,000 plus kids in this particular, city. And, we have got to make sure that we are offering them the amenities that they would like to stay here and not drive up and down the highway in order to have what they need. But if you're not familiar with government and how government works, you're looking at it from a financial standpoint of saying, well, it loses X amount of dollars a year, but you're not counting in the economic impact of what it brings in and the other intangibles that comes with that particular facility as it relates to the quality of life. So we just have to make sure that we are comparing ourselves and looking at us as to what we're doing as government and not looking at us strictly from a business standpoint. Great
insight. So let's talk about a real reason that a lot of us in healthcare have been energized in recent years, and that's the word hospitals.
Oh, yes. Bring them on.
Yeah, bring them on. So
bring them on.
As a city manager, what's the excitement inside City Hall with staff and the citizens you've heard from about the hospitals?
So inside of City Hall, what I would say is I keep making the statement, the city they don't fully grasp what's about to happen to them. And they're going to be blown away when you see HCA moving their dirt over in Welland Park right now. And you see SMH about to start, their process over there on Sumter. And they said they're going to do the Welland Park campus at the exact same time. This city is about to be in for a shock to its system when they see not only those projects of the hospitals and the healthcare being more readily available and not having to go outside of the city for what they need, but also the business and the medical and the other economic development opportunities for those corridors that are just going to keep expanding. You talk about the hospitals, which is right there next to Costco. And Costco, you're going to see it sort of spurn off some other businesses right there next to it. The hospitals are going to do the exact same thing. And you're going to see these little business corridors start to thrive, and we want them to thrive because then we have not only more services for our citizens, but then we also have more revenues for our community. And right now, if you look at our budget, our revenues are not where we need them to be in order to take on all this growth.
We're gonna hit budget here in a little bit, but I said to someone earlier this week, our city is neighborhoods. It's not a city. We are a city, but we're not a city. But I'm going to tell you what, the minute that we open the doors to the first hospital gets finished, the first one that gets finished, and then the other two open, or vice versa, however that works out, I believe that's when we're going to get recognized as the city we are.
I agree with you, sir.
And the excitement about that is, for me, I'm getting chills because I've been here for 24 years.
Right.
I'm talking about hospitals for 24 plus years. We're 65 years old. We have 90 plus thousand people.
Yes.
We have very little when it comes to what people are thinking we should have.
Right.
But the minute you open 3 hospitals in our city,
man,
it's going to change economic development within the city walls.
Yes.
And do you think that is needed for the citizens who are actually here now, let alone the ones that are going to move here?
Yeah, absolutely. For the ones who have been here longer than I have, when I first got here, it was, we need a hospital. They won't give us a hospital. And now we have 3 that are knocking on our door. And in order for us to reach certain thresholds and benchmarks for other activity to get into the city, those 3 hospitals, I can guarantee you, are on the checklist of what do you need and how do you service your own citizens in order to make sure that they are taken care of. It just moves us into a different upper echelon of quality of our city, where we are becoming more independent. People are looking at us and saying, they mean business down there. And then you combine that with the commissioners that we have and the visions that we execute on them as a city staff, and you have a very good scenario. And that's why the momentum of what we're doing is so important to keep it going so that we don't fall backwards into a time that was prior to the people that we have now in the right places to do such good things.
You know, we've got some amazing groups out there that are independent from the city of Northport. I'm going to bring up Northport Forward, because Northport Forward actually has an event coming up at the Lakeside Plantation Clubhouse. And I'm super excited about that because that's my neighborhood. That's why I have to be excited. And I've already keyed in my neighbors and said, come on out. I want to talk about that group, along with the fact that if you're part of the rapid growth of Northport, why you should embrace getting educated about our surroundings and look at where you're living. All the things we're talking about right now are a factor in the rapid growth side of things.
Yeah, so let me just say, one, the event that you're talking about, Northport United, that event is next Thursday at 6 p.m. at the Lakeside Plantation. There's also a Northport Forward Economic Development Community Opportunity event that's happening on Wednesday the 26th at 6 p.m. And that's at the Hampton Inn Suites. And Vinny Mascarenas, our economic development manager, will be sort of leading that conversation as it relates to economic development. But we are, and we continue to be at a pivotal moment in our time in our history, where we need to keep explaining to people the value of this growth. Part of what we're doing with our consultants is doing an economic analysis that's going to be done by the end of the calendar year, that is going to show people, when we talked earlier, well, how is all this growth going to pay for growth? Why isn't growth paying for growth? We really needed, and we've already begun to have a third party sort of verbalize that in a way that's going to give people the confidence that the growth that they're seeing is actually going to work to their benefit. And the more that they can see that and understand that, then the more that they can be receptive of that. But if I'm a citizen and I don't know and I don't understand why I see all this growth and my, and my taxes, and, Mr. Manager, you're telling me that the millage rate is going to go up regardless, you really need to paint the picture for them financially and economically and growth-wise. It all needs to be in one particular place. And that's why I'm glad we're working on those studies, so that people can see it and then absorb it and then sort of hopefully get energized and join us on this journey.
So I do want to come back to budget as part of the finishing up side of things, because there's a group of agenda items, kind of, so to speak, that are kind of bundled there. But
yeah,
what's the importance of and I know we talked about War Mill Springs at the beginning, but what's the importance of War Mill Springs and the Legacy Trail, and embracing both of those and I want to say this, on the economic side of things for Northport? Yeah,
so War Mill Springs and the Legacy Trail, we have committed to Charles Hines, and I think they're the public trust for land. We have committed to bringing the Legacy Trail into War Mill Springs. The county has said they will help us financially as we bring that trailhead down into the bottom of War Mill Springs. And we really should have something there for people when they come through the Legacy Trailhead down there. Maybe a small restaurant, something where people can grab a beverage and sit down or something, and sort of have a destination point down there. We want that to be the vision for War Mill Springs. The commission has already signed off on it. We're already working with Charles Hines to get it done. Like I said, the county's involved as well. That is going to happen. That is happening. But as you improve the property, now we're talking about the looks and the infrastructure and the admissions building and the bathrooms. You are going to bring in a higher volume of clientele there, because it will be someplace that looks and feels great as a tourist attraction for the city. The people who go there now are what we would call the diehard people, who says, I'm going to go there irregardless. I don't care what it looks like or what's happening there, but if the doors are open, I'm walking through it.
And they do. And they do.
Right. Right. And right. But we want everyone to enjoy that who can possibly enjoy
Right.
that. We want to make sure that the customer experience for everyone is improved. And that's why we believe that as we execute on the decisions of the commission to renovate and improve the property, everyone is going to benefit from that. And I don't believe that that means bringing in a bulldozer and making all of it just an urban jungle. That's not the answer, but you need to do it responsibly. And I think that that's what this commission has sort of stopped and paused and said, okay, let's make sure we do this the right way.
Again, if you're listening right now on social media and you have comments or questions, please put them up. If they're appropriate to what we're talking about at the moment, we'll answer your questions. If you have a question about any other topic, even you naysayers out there that may not have the perfect comment, please put them up. We'll talk about them. We're not scared of a question. We're not scared of providing an answer. Quick question for you, though, because we're going to slide into budget.
Slide into budget.
And I got into a conversation last night on social media, and the citizen was throwing his hands in the air, and just fire him. Let's get rid of things. They're not listening. I'm just going to ask you a direct question, and then we'll talk about the budget side of things. But the taxes in Northport, as we're addressing them each and every year, have we raised our millage rate in the last 3 years?
We have not. And to answer your question, to make a comment on your point about the person who said fire him and do whatever, did you say fire him to the prior guy who was before me, who wasn't getting these things done and who got relieved of his duties because of what he did? Did you have that same energy towards that person? I don't think you probably did, and you can't tell me that the things that we're doing now under this leadership team is not things that should have been done a long time ago that we're tackling to make this city a better place. The millage rate, to your question of, we haven't raised the millage rate. The millage rate staying the same for any longer than it already has is unsustainable. We are growing too fast. We need to be able to take care of the services that we need to keep our quality of services at the level that we want them to be. The budget that the commission is going to talk about next week, we have budget workshops all day on Monday in city chambers. We have at least half a day on Tuesday for meetings as well. Then we have budget meetings, a regular meeting Tuesday afternoon and evening, and then we come back on Wednesday for more meetings about the borrowing authority. But if you as a city think that the budget and our millage rate are going to be okay by just keeping them the same, that is not going to happen. We are going to show you that we balanced our budget this year, and we left a lot of budget proposals out on the table. We did the same thing last year. And what I told our team last year was that I would keep a track with them and make sure that we gave them what they needed so they didn't go without, but we needed to show the commission and the community that we can do the exercise of being as fiscally responsible as we could be without just asking for more money, more money, more money. Next year is going to be even harder because that number has grown even more. But this is not a good year, and there's never, ever a good year to say there needs to be a millage rate increase. But knowing that the commissioner's direction has been there will be no increase this year, we will have to do the best with what we have. And that is the job. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to figure it out. And that's what we're committed to doing.
So I kind of want to point something else out too, is because the citizens need to hear a little bit about the positive side of at least one program, and not just one, but at least one, of where they assist on driving costs down. And that's our recycling program. And can you, not that I want to talk about recycling because I can bring people on for that, but
Right.
The importance of knowing that we're one of the only cities in the state that actually run a recycling program that puts positive revenue back in.
Right.
What's the value of that for a city manager and staff to take back to the commission?
So we're talking about millions of dollars that can help this city if people were to recycle at a higher rate than they currently are. I think that we're always out there messaging and giving the value of recycling. Not everyone hears it. Not everyone listens to it. But when you see the monetary impact come back into your budget, these are ways that we can help take care of ourselves. And someone might say, well, $1 million is not a lot of money. It is a lot of money when you're looking at a fund balance that has been depleted due to Hurricane Ian repairs and whatnot. And us, we didn't use any fund balance to balance our budget this year, but our reserves and our coffers are dwindling. And anything that we can do to help that should be done and appreciated. So recycling is a very big, important factor. Please recycle. And like you said, you could have someone come on and talk about it in greater detail. But no matter who says it and no matter how they say it, please recognize how important it is for you to contribute to the solution.
You know, and the funny thing is, I'm going to say this because, you know, all my life I was part of this whole thing. The police department, revenue. They create their own. We help them because we do stupid things to speed down our roads, run red lights, and do those things. So there's a revenue stream there. If we looked at and it is however you want to divide it down, but and that's an oddball way of looking at it, but it's
Right.
But the recycling program, if you're at all in lockstep with the nature of everything.
Right.
If you're a Woolmill Springs goer and you're not in the recycling program, shame on you because they're directly connected. If you're not incentivized to do this, you are, because take $1 million out of what you capture from that.
Right.
What's our millage rate going to go to?
Right. Exactly.
Is it going to raise?
Yeah, oh, you better believe it. I mean,
Right.
because again, we are struggling with revenue sources, and the millage rate is the most common one and the most one that people think about. But whether you're talking about, you know, the speeding tickets, and I think when I think of police generating revenue, I think more of like maybe some of the red light cameras that I've seen in other places and other sort of things. To me, speeding should be done out of an abundance of safety, making sure that people are not out there trying to, you know, harm each other. But I get your point. So what we're doing and what we've looked at this year are expanding our revenue sources, and one of them is the fee on the unimproved lots that people have here that sort of grow and, you know, mess with their neighbors, and for us to come in and to be able to take care of those and then be able to say, hey, look, let's make sure that we maximize revenue opportunities that other people are taking advantage of. You know, we're steadily evolving and growing, and we want to make sure that, hey, if someone else is doing it and they're doing it right, why can't we do it? And we're answering that question by saying we can do it. And maybe you can't do it the same amount or strength that someone else is doing, but you got to start somewhere. We need all the help that we can get, especially in this year, as I said earlier, where the millage rate will remain constant. That is very unusual. And we have to provide the same level of services that our citizens are accustomed to. And we're going to figure that out.
Well, and the citizens need to hear it, because the effect of not doing it is the millage rate almost 100% for sure would go up if we didn't have that influx of money, because that's a large amount of money.
It is, but this is how I look at it. If you know your millage rate has been stable for a few years and you know it's unsustainable, why would you not just raise it up 3%, 5%, 3%, 5%, as opposed to me coming to you next year saying, oh, you know what, we need a 13% increase. And then you have the same issue that the Welland Park people had and said, you're not managing your budget correctly. Well, if you knew there was a problem and you could see the fiscal cliff coming, why would you not just take baby steps to get there, as opposed to saying, now we need this huge jump that people are going to criticize us for? It's like we're not being proactive in the problem solving. We're waiting for the hammer to hit us over the head before we say, oh, there's a problem. I'm not a big fan of that, but I do understand the reasons and the environment that we're in that would allow people to think that way. But I think there's a better way to do this.
The scary part is I lived in your shoes for a brief moment of time. And I'll tell you why. As we had this conversation, I believe on the air, and I said, I'm all for that theory, because I agree with the management of mini increases versus hitting over the head with a ball bat. I don't like it. And I would much prefer having the micro increase and the explanation why, which is very simple. We've had increases out here, but we're not trying to hurt our citizens. We're trying to guide them through the economic growth that we're having and providing the services we need to provide. It's to me, it's just sound business, because even at home, in your home budget, you're doing the same thing.
Right.
And because FPL is not saying anything, but we're going to raise rates all the time.
Right.
And so you always have to micromanage your home budget. We should be doing the same thing at City Hall.
But using FPL as an example, they're raising their rates to cover the cost that they need to provide the services that you expect. And the cost of everything has gone up since COVID. And most people will tell you that, construction costs and some other costs are still, dealing with COVID. But what I would say is your city is no different. We have to pay higher costs for everything right now. How do you expect that to be absorbed within the few opportunities that we have for additional revenues, whether it's assessed values increasing, which cannot be depended on but for so long, even though we came in at 16% this year, which was, again, tops in the county by at least 5%, I believe. We should all be grateful that our home values are going up. But at the same time, I don't want our home values going up to be the main provider of the revenue that we need for the city to keep growing. If I'm a citizen, I'm like, thank you for my home value going up. I'm grateful. But what are you doing in addition to that in order to raise other revenue sources, as well as look at your own expenses to make sure that you are under control and in balance with what we're trying to accomplish? That's what I would be looking for if I were, since I am a citizen.
And I've got a question up by Robin, but I'm going to wait because it's not directly connected yet. But Robin, I promise you, by the time we end the show, we'll have answered your question. And we've got 9 minutes left on the air. And if you're watching on the air and you want to switch over to Facebook, Real Talk 97.5 at 4:00, slide on over. We're going to still be extended out. We're going to talk about referendum. We have a huge election year out there right now. I want to say a couple things versus answering or asking you a question real quick. And you can chime in if you want to. I want to address a couple things to the citizens, a couple things of frustration. I want to address Alice White, and not as the commissioner. I want to address her as the tree lady of Northport. Anyone out there that is saying that she's not for trees, stop listening to them. Stop listening to them. They're not level-headed. They're not in their game. She has been 100% since I've known her and met her, 100% committed to trees in the city of Northport. And if you are against her right now, thinking that she's going to do that, take a look at Facebook, go out and join her, plant some trees, and still realize she's the fighter. The difference that she has now versus being just the tree lady of Northport is that she's also a sitting city commissioner and our mayor. And she has to have the balance of what the city is. Can you address that?
Yes. So first of all, Alice White, as you say, anyone who has met her has known she is not ever going to stop caring about trees. I mean, that is her pride and joy. That's her passion, and it always will be. She has had to take other topics on top of the environment in consideration as she has evolved into a well-rounded commissioner for this city. And just because she has to make decisions that go against her passion and her love for trees doesn't mean she doesn't care about trees. Have you seen the Natural Resource Division that was created to make sure that we have a better accountability and responsibility for our environment as we grow? How do you think these things happen? Why do you think these things happen? They happen because people like her are standing up and saying, hey, I understand that this city has to grow, but you better be doing it the right way, because otherwise, if you're not, then I'm going to have some problems. And we want that Natural Resource Division to be part of the accountability tool for the city as we continue to grow and make sure that we're doing it the right way. Just because she is passionate about trees does not mean she can't care about the other facets of this city, whether it's quality of life, whether it's economic development, whether it's public safety. Those things are all important too. She's never going to lose her passion for that. Never. But we are always trying to make sure that we put the right mechanisms in place to show people that we care and hold us accountable for what we say we're going to do to what we actually are going, that we actually get done.
So I'm going to go into the referendum, and Vanessa, I see your question, and we're going to come back to your question at the end, but we're going to talk about referendum. So we're going to be on the air past 4 o'clock, I promise, because the Q&A part of this, we get kicked off and we might go until 5. You never know. Right, Mr. Fletcher?
Yeah, that's correct.
All right. So let's talk about the referendum. Let's talk about the first thing is what's the $1.8 million need for the city of Northport?
So during the spring, we asked our city to sort of project out their capital needs for the next 10 to 15 years. And that came out to be $1.8 billion. Now, $1 billion of that is utilities, and utilities might be able to use some revenue sources to pay for that. So it's not all borrowing. I don't want someone to think that, well, they're going to go out and borrow $1.8 billion and charge it back to us. That's not the intent. The goal is to say, we're trying to show you the volume and a picture of the need for a city that cannot borrow anything right now without going out to vote or referendum with the citizens. Now, as I just spoke to the mayor, I need people to sort of look at things in a certain way. Let's talk about large-scale infrastructure projects versus small-scale infrastructure projects. Large-scale infrastructure projects, the headquarters, the police headquarters, will have to have a geo bond component to it regardless. It's going to come back in front of you as a citizen. There is no way to say, well, they're trying to have borrowing authority so they can work around us and not come back and talk to us about needing a police station. That is totally not true. It's too much money. It's higher than the bond amount that we're asking you for. If there's a cap involved, then the cap would say, okay, well, we're going to go handle these small scale infrastructure projects. We're going to prove to the citizens in the community that we can manage within those parameters, but we still have to come back to you for the larger scale projects, which is going to be anything that has geo bonds, one, because it's the law, and two, because those are where your larger scale projects come into play. We're trying to get borrowing authority so that we can handle ourselves with the tools that are available on the smaller scale projects. And I think that's how hopefully people will be able to see the difference of what we're asking for. We have to prove in this day and age where no one wants to give government more authority that you can handle it in bite sizes. So take a bite size, get it going and get it started. For a community that has given you nothing, we're going to give you something, but don't ask for the moon. So I think that once we all agree that, okay, if you ask for something on a smaller scale, you put a debt management policy in place to guard you and make sure that the commission has the right oversight and authority for what we do. That's how we show the public and we gain their trust.
And the referendum bonds, can you talk about that for Warm Mill Springs?
Yeah, so the bonding for the referendum bonding for Warm Mill Springs is very simple. If we were able to borrow revenue bonds, Warm Mill Springs can pay for itself. It is not another burden on our taxpayers. We have $9 million in the pot. It makes $500,000 or plus a year. You take those, you talk to your financial advisors, you borrow for what the commission decides to renovate and fix up. You use it, you fix it up, you pay it back, and now you have a beautiful Warm Mill Springs that is just the 20 acres where the water is and the buildings are. And then you still can decide what you want to do with the other 60 acres, whether you're talking about conservation easement, leaving it passive, putting a small restaurant there, putting small, maybe ecotourism condos there. When I say condos, I should mean those little boutique sort of hotels. Whatever they decide to put there is what the conversation will revolve around. But at the end of the day, you want to be able to improve Warm Mill Springs without adding any more taxpayer dollars to it. And if you had revenue bonds, you could borrow for what you have in the bank, as well as what you make and pledge that revenue stream annually towards repaying bonds to fix it up.
So I don't want to throw in the after effects of Ian in, but I do want to talk about real quick because we're talking about debt, we're talking about budgets, we're talking about all these things, and we're in hurricane season.
Right.
So not that I want to go backwards, but with Ian, the city took on a burden of recovery. And so we're good and we're okay, but would the borrowing authority that we don't currently have as a city? And then maybe a more direct question about this from me, because listening to you talk about these things with me all these times, would would that help? Would that have helped us through the recovery of Ian?
It would have helped us recover faster. So right now, what we're dealing with is we are just at the point now of finishing all the inspections, checking all the box for FEMA and everyone that in the state to make sure that we have the inspections done. And now we have to repair those buildings and parks and everything that happened, and then get reimbursed for some of that from FEMA and the state at a later point in time. We do not have the money to repay $6 million in damages that we're currently looking for right now, which we're going to talk about at the budget session with the commission on the upcoming week. And that's a problem. There were interest-free loans that were offered by the state and other entities that we could have taken advantage of if we were able to incur some debt that sometimes are forgiven at the end and given to you as a city as a grant. We cannot take advantage of any of that due to our lack of borrowing ability. Our lack of borrowing ability hurts us in so many ways. It has to be fixed. And for a city that's 65 years old, you should be applauded for having gone through this so long and not having the city falter. But if we don't change this very important piece of our charter in some way, and I'm agreeing that baby steps are probably going to be better than large steps, the city is going to have serious trouble in the future.
And that's kind of with anyone. You could talk as far as real estate goes. You don't go out and buy your first $1 million home as a new home buyer. You take your baby steps, you make your adjustments on your budget, you get a better job, you arrange your budget, you save some money, you make some money, you move forward. I like the baby step theory, but go ahead.
Well, and let's talk about a $500,000 home. You're not going to go save up $500,000 and then go buy the home. You're going to get what you need and what you can. You put it down, you borrow the rest, and you pay it back. And that credit and that ability to pay it back is what determines how much you can borrow in the future, because people are going to look at your credit and say, wait a minute, you're already obligated for this. Your revenue is that. You can only afford this. That's how the world works. We're not asking to do anything that others around us are not doing. And we're not asking for anything that doesn't make just the basic common sense of how can we make sure that we take care of the infrastructure and the needs of a growing city.
So a direct question or a direct statement, I guess. I'd rather have the borrowing capabilities versus the increasing of taxes to increase emergency fund balance. So pick and choose your battles, folks. That was from former Commissioner Vanessa Carazone. Hey, Vanessa, how you doing? But your comment on that statement.
So I love her statement, because I'd rather have the borrowing capacity as opposed to increasing taxes as well. What I will say is, what's going to happen if it fails and we don't get the borrowing authority? We still got to take care of the city. We still got to get things done. How are we going to do that? We're going to have to figure out different ways to do that. And most likely those routes go through the state, and there are other more painful ways to get it done. It's going to cost us more, and the citizens are not going to like it any less. And I don't think that's fair for us to put the entire city in that position when we have the opportunity to do the right thing today. The city has to maintain itself. If we don't get it one way through the charter, we're going to have to get it a different way through the state.
Can I ask a direct question about a hurricane now?
Yeah.
If we get hit with another Ian at the same cost and we don't have the borrowing power, are we okay?
No, we won't be okay. The debris removal that you saw that cost us 30 to 50 plus $1 million, we were able to do that. And a lot of people say that we did that more quickly after Ian than some of the prior hurricanes. You're going to see those debris situations just pile up. You're going to see more infrastructure remain unimproved for longer periods of time. Your services, your government is going to suffer in a great way. Ian was the wake-up call. Ian was the call that says, hey, look, you guys need to fix this now, because if this happens again and you're caught in the same situation, it's not going to be as good. And I think that we need to react to that. That was not a false warning. That was a serious warning. And we heard it, and we need to react to it before it's too late. And even if we react to it this fall, depending on how hurricane season goes, it still might be too late. But we need to make sure that we are at least got our eye on the prize and do the best we can today, and not look back to what we didn't do and just say, let's fix it now.
So are you saying that you're trying to take a positive approach to what could be a very negative event?
Yes, I am telling you that I am deeply concerned based on the forecasts and predictions of what this hurricane season is said to be, that if we are hit with that same volume and intensity of damage, this city is going to be in trouble without the ability to take care of itself. And we might end up with the state doing something that it very seldomly does, which is take an intervention in a city like ours to make sure that we can take care of ourselves. And we don't want to be the poster child for that example. We need to be able to say that we saw the warnings, we saw the signs, and we took the right action.
So we're talking about true viability.
Yes.
Of the city.
Yes, you're talking about the ability to function and maintain and service the 90,000+ people. We're not a small city anymore. We're not a city that has minimum needs. We have bigger needs, but we have more people, and you have people in the right places to tell you and guide you to what you need to get done. And for people to think that, well, we'll just get rid of him or her and everything will be magically fine, it doesn't work that way.
True. And so former commissioner or current commissioner, Pete, current commissioner Pete Emmerich, the police station and bonding for it has been explained twice. The all-knowing citizens, parentheses 4, will still say you're wrong. You are lying. We know better. Really, there are a lot of ways to look at the police station. There's always logic behind what has to happen for a police station to actually be part of it. Everybody wants to think there's a solution out there different, because, why don't we use Winn-Dixie as an example? Take Winn-Dixie and convert it over to a police station. There's no viability in that conversation whatsoever. So can you talk about the 4 citizens out there that Pete mentioned?
Yes.
And really it's not 4, there's probably 5.
Right.
But educate the citizens that need to hear the why, because we really just hit them with the truth about Ian and what another Ian would do to the city that they admire now.
Right.
It's sort of the same thing if we don't start taking care of the police force and the fire as we have the rapid growth.
Yes.
So can you hit that up?
Yeah. And first of all, I'm glad the commissioner has not lost his sense of humor, even though I saw him Tuesday and he's lost a good amount of weight and he looks great, but the sense of humor is intact. Let's break it down to a granular level here to answer your question about the 4 people, the 40 people, the 400 people, the 4,000 people. 4,000 people is still a small number in our 90,000 person city. So let's just be clear. But here's my point. If you have the mindset that you know more than subject matter experts, then there's nothing that Jerome or anyone's going to be able to say to tell you anything, because you know more than all of us, even though you don't have the experience or the credentials to back up your rationality. Now, the one good thing about your government is we've included you, we've been open, we've had meetings, we're transparent. You can bring your ideas to us and we can tell you why they are good or why we disagree with them. You don't have to sit and wonder and think, well, I know more than they do. Bring yourself to the party, so to speak, and get involved in a way that is meaningful and not as someone who is sitting and just complaining about everything and everyone. Because if it wasn't me, you'd be complaining about the next person. If it wasn't a police headquarters that you're an expert in, it would be a fire station, or then it would be a public works building. Please trust the people who are in the roles until they give you a reason not to trust them about what they know and how they're trying to lead the city. But if you are someone who just believes, the government can do no right, they're always doing something wrong, you just have to live with that, and you have to own that. And I can't own that for you, and I'm not going to be able to change your mind. So we can't have a productive conversation.
Well, I'm going to have the police department on, and they're going to be doing a show with me once a month now. Not just about the police department itself, not the building.
Right.
We have, and truthfully, we have been forever the redheaded stepchild since I've been here. We're no longer that. We are now, even within our police department. I'm not talking about anything else. I already talked about Public Works and the recycling program that they travel all over the place to come here to see if they can replicate our program.
Right.
We have the same thing happening within the police department. There's greatness within our walls.
Multiple departments. And people need to understand that we're no longer the redhead stepchild. And that was before I got here, by the way. We are now the favorite child. We have support coming from all areas, whether it's Sarasota County North, whether it's Charlotte County South, Venice, everyone has chimed in to help us take our seat at the table. You take your seat at the table by sitting there and acting like you belong, not by sitting there and complaining about what you didn't get in this year and what you didn't get in that year. We have pulled ourselves up. We take accountability and responsibility for who we are. We make our ask, we make our demands, not our demands, we make our ask and our needs known. Look at what we just got from the county as it relates to the SRQ program, where we went and made our case to them and they gave us more money than we were expecting to get out of there. The county listens to us. People are hearing us now. It's because we're acting professional and we're acting like we belong in these rooms with other people who are not just hearing us say this is what we want and crying and boo-hooing. We're coming with professionalism. We're coming with plans and strategies and partnerships that can make us all succeed so we can all rise together. I do not subscribe to the redhead stepchild, but I do understand where it came from. But I've been here for almost 3 years now. I can point to a laundry list of successes that we've had and how we are now viewed in a different light by our peers.
Absolutely. And there's something to be said about the flamethrowers in our city. And while some of their comments are valuable and their intentions are well meaningful, organizing a coalition of people that are sound-minded, I guess one would say, I think there's more power in that voice structure. I think the presentation is stronger. I think the reception of, and I'm not just talking about here in the city, I'm talking about even our city doing that same thing when it gathers its forces and going and presenting to the county or the state.
Right. Absolutely.
And I that is an important piece. And Robin, I'm going to get your question next, I promise. But can you talk about how building that coalition and changing the professionalism has changed our seat at the table?
Well, and two things I'll say. One, when you organize and you do it in a professional manner, people hear you. They listen to you. They listen to the points that you make, and they empathize with where you're coming from. When people who are completely negative all the time, and that's all you bring to the table, your voice is never going to be heard. And if you truly want your voice to be heard, you don't even have to rally and organize a group. Join an advisory board. There's always vacancies on our advisory boards. There's always ways to join the conversation. And I know people will say, well, I don't have time to be at a meeting, or I can't make it, what about virtually? I know that there are different things that people are trying to fix so that we can have more engagement from our citizens. And even the Northport University that kicked off this week for an 8-week course, it filled up within hours. We now have a waiting list, and it just launched yesterday. People to get more involved and more knowledgeable about what the city does and how to make your voice being heard. There are multiple ways to get involved. None of it is through negativity through a computer screen. Reach out and meet with the people who are in charge of making some change and make sure that your voice is heard and not just sort of magnified by other people who are disgruntled about something in the same way. Solutions. It's all about solutions.
Absolutely. Can you have the city manager, thanks, Robin, for your question. Can you have the city manager discuss the proposed unimproved lot restriction or registration program and why our city needs this?
Yeah, absolutely. So the unimproved lot program is one that we actually have suggested for this budget year. We have approximately 40,000 lots that are unimproved. And if others around us charge anywhere from $100 to $500 a lot in order to maintain that lot throughout the year. Now, I was told, and I understand, that the city of Northport, used to do that on its own, and then it cut it out because it was too expensive. Well, what we really should have done was to make the owners of the unimproved lots actually pay for it. And then that way we could actually get that revenue and take care of the lot at the same time. It said during 2017 to 2020, we processed nearly 2,700 complaints for impending growth, resulting in over $570,000 cost to the city. So they removed the program. But now what we want to do is we want to take those unimproved lots and charge the people. If you charge them $100, you're looking at $4 million. Wouldn't that $4 million be great for a budget that is currently struggling? Absolutely. You bet it would. But, there's some challenges there. One, the collection rate of it in its first year is not going to be 100% just based on people receiving mailing for the first time who don't live here and say, okay, what is this? But we have to be persistent and get it going and get it started. I think that the impact on our community will be a much more well-kept community. It will help bring revenue into the city, and we want to remove areas that impinge on other homeowners' rights as well. So I think there's a lot of victories here, and I believe that it may even encourage those who have unimproved lots to improve their lots. We actually did a memo that we sent to the commissioners on May the 7th, which has some more detailed information in it, and I can send you that email, John, and maybe you can post it or put it somewhere that people can see it, like Robin, who can answer that, who will be able to answer that question and say, okay, this is some more detail about the project as we go through the budget conversation.
Please do. I'll put it all over our social media sites.
Yeah, I'm going to send it to you right
I'm
now.
gonna say something because I get feedback from citizens too, and it's ironic because I've really tried to engage on the social media side of things with different people in different walks of life. I always ask the question though, and Robin says she has the memo.
Okay,
but thank you. So I get a lot of. I try to get them to get off of the kind of the hate side of things because it's so easy. And I'm not talking about any specific person because there's a lot of people in our city. So we could take a good portion of those people, let's say 2%, and that's still a good portion, okay, that are angry at the world and everything is negative and they feed on the negative. They're not inspired to do a lot of things other than that. But ultimately my question is the sit down. Have you done the sit down? Have you met with the person you're accusing things of? And example would be the person that's accusing Alice White of not being for trees. Have you actually gone in and sat down with her and the conversation stops? Because they haven't, or they would have said, yes, I did. We have flamethrowers out there in the social media landscape that seem to be some of the voices heard. And it's not one specific group because they're multiple, they're layered.
Right.
But in saying that, how hard is it to get an appointment with City Manager Fletcher or any of his staff or any of the city assistant managers or even sitting city commissioners? How hard is that?
Well, I think, the first thing I'll say is the person who is complaining about Alice White will probably say, it's not going to make a difference anyway. She's not going to listen and not going to do anything. Well, if you already predetermined your mind and you've already predetermined what's going to be said, then how can you ever get to a solution other than the complaining that you're doing? You have to believe and think that someone is going to hear you. But make no mistake also, John, that certain people in our community has done too many things to me for me to sit down with every single person. I am constantly harassed by one particular citizen and these basic ethics complaints that keep getting filed, and we keep beating them and winning them. And then you get the comment, well, I'll get a lawyer next time so that it can be legally sufficient. A lawyer is not going to turn fiction into fact. You're missing the point. You need to have factual basis before you actually continue to harass and try to drag someone's name through the mud. Those are the minority of people in our community. And I think that the people who are with them should recognize that and realize that if you want positive things to happen, you need to reach out to people who can have influence on making those changes. We want people to come to us and say, hey, I got a problem. And then we sit and we talk about what solutions that we have within our capabilities, what we need to do, what you might be able to do, and some things that we're maybe not thinking of. That's what collaboration looks like. It doesn't mean you're constantly attacking someone as it relates to your own personal agenda. And I think that's where a lot of the negativity from people reside in one particular group.
And there was a statement that Vanessa had made. Truly need to plan for decreased values, and some recent court actions will affect those revenues in 25. Can you kind of address that?
Well, we have depended on the increased values for the last 3 to 4 years because it's been in a time that has been highly different than the past, and she's correct. But we've also used ARPA funds. We've also used other one-time revenue streams to balance our budget. They're not going to be there forever. You keep balancing this budget with unsustainable outcomes. And yes, we're grateful that they're there, but that's not proper planning. That's not good fiscal management. You need to be able to see and depend on a certain amount of revenue every year. And we're not going to see that as our population and our expenses keep growing, but yet our millage rate stays the same. But I would much rather do it in baby steps of increments, and everyone understands you're going to see little ticks, as opposed to coming to you one year saying, hey, we need a 15% increase.
Okay. And we've had with the de-annexation, with all the other things that are out there. I understand that things have to evolve, things have to take place.
Right.
Isn't it tax dollars that pays for all the legal representation the city has to go through?
Yes, and that bill is, quite high. Our city attorney says she's going to calculate all the money that we had to spend, because we're right now, I think, near the end of the de-annexation conversation. We don't believe that it's going to be overturned in a way that is going to harm us. The last verdict was in our favor, and we're very grateful. But at the same time, we have to move on. We have to be grateful that we are winning the lawsuit, but there's still a huge segment of our community that we got to take care of. But every time someone files something that is an action that we need to defend ourselves, whether it was the annexation or, like I said, with ethics complaints, those are taxpayer dollars that these people are costing us, which again just hurts us citywide, and things that we have to pay for that we shouldn't have to pay for.
The funny thing is we and I'm guessing at this point because I haven't ever asked you this, but do we have a budget set for lawsuits?
Well, I think what we have is in our attorney's budget, she has a line item for external counsel, because that's what's generally used as our response to defend ourselves. Because our current team, of course, not only are they not specialized in that, but they just don't have the time to be the one to respond to that. So it is a cost to our budget. And again, these are the same people who will tell you that I care so much about taxpayers' dollars, but yet they're willing to waste them by having us defend ourselves in things that they want to fight us on.
And that is any of the lawsuits that are not. And I don't want what I don't want to sound like is no one should ever do it.
Correct.
Because there is something to be said about us, the citizen that comes forward and actually figures it out and corrects it. But if if that's occurring, doesn't the issue get resolved before it gets? And I'm asking this like legitimately, an issue that's adjustable and can be taken out of the legal mindset. Isn't that something that the city staff works on and then takes back to the commission?
Sometimes whistleblowers and people who are really, rooted in trying to fix a problem have valid causes, and someone may not see it here, and then they raise awareness, and then that's how it is resolved. But when you have, and like, our outside legal attorney told me, like for the one of the more recent complaints that we have, and this is the ethics complaint, when you have the state of Florida who says that we're going to assume that everything you reported is true in your complaint, and they say you still don't have an ethics complaint, all you have are differences of agreement and differences of performance, that is wasting taxpayers' dollars. And that is a problem, because what you're trying to do is just say, I'm going to throw everything I can and try to have a public execution on you in order to ruin your name. That is not what those rules are there for. Therefore, they're there for people who really truly find things that are being done wrong and have facts and evidence, who can support it, and not personality disagreements that waste our time and try to distract us. It needs to be fact-based. That's what needs to happen.
Well, I've got a really long one now for you, Vanessa, and it has to do with the last conversation before, but that means a new R&D assessment study to justify that increase. So I'll be curious how that will all work. P.S. Professionals have served this in the past, both elected and appointed. So it's great to hear those building blocks have now been created and solid foundation. I need to put my contacts in so bad right now I can't read. I've been looking at the screen too long on all levels. Sorry, Vanessa, it's a long one.
Yeah, and her point is, the evolution of us putting the right people in the right seats and doing the right things. This is something that is new to a lot of people in the city, and I get that and I understand that. But I've been here almost 3 years now. What more do you want us to do to show you that we have the city's best interests? We got right professionals with the right credentials in the right place. We have the commission who is executing on their vision that they want done for the city. I mean, what more do you want? I don't understand what more someone would want us to do other than do the job the best way we can every single day.
So in general now, have we talked about the millage rate? We haven't increased that for 3 years. We're not looking at increasing it this year.
Right.
Are there any other things that you have done? And I'm kind of addressing the conversation I had with this gentleman last night that got cut off when I asked the question, which was simple. Have you met with Mr. Fletcher and asked him? And then the conversation miraculously just went quiet, went to a dead zone. So as far as the Northport taxes,
right,
that are being increased, now we can't talk about property taxes,
right,
and kind of clarify, because I know for a fact that even up in the Welland Park area, they group all these things together and they say the city of Northport. There's distinct differences in those two things, isn't there?
Well, there's the city of Northport, there's the county, there's the school, there's multiple taxing entities, as everyone has to pay towards to make sure that our community is our community has what it needs financially. But whether there's solid waste fees that we talked about, we raised the utility tax. These are things that we have sort of use to band-aid ourselves together as we keep going forward while not touching the millage rate. There was one year that, I was here, I want to say it was under Commissioner Emmerich's term, where we didn't raise any fees on any level, which was great. And I felt like the community didn't even blink or barely even appreciated it. And it's very hard to keep doing this. But the more you keep making it look like you're not sacrificing and not giving up anything, the more people expect you to keep doing it, which is why for the last entire year during the Northport Forward conversations, I've told people, you need to be able to expect a millage rate in the future at some point in time at some amount. But we have to understand that there are certain tools in the toolbox that the city of Northport has not taken advantage of. And those are some things we're trying to catch up to as we not raise the millage for yet again another year.
So I'm going to say something that you don't say, or I'm actually going to say it the way I think you would say it. Actually, it's not time to look backwards in Northport. Mm-hmm. It's time to look forward. How do we look forward as citizens right now in the vision that we're in right now to be a more prosperous city with all the rapid changes, the hospitals, everything coming into play? Because whether people realize it or not, we're literally going to change the landscape of our city with 3 hospitals. And that's not a joke. We're going to be shakers and movers beyond what we've been saying we are today.
Right.
How do we stay solvent, keep our taxes regulated where we want them, and keep our citizens feeling more secure in our tax burden on them? How do we do that and yet embrace the growth?
So I think the biggest hurdle is the mindset of, well, the person before you did X, Y, and Z, and that was wrong, so I'm waiting on you to do the same thing. Or in a department, this person did that wrong, so I'm waiting for you, and I'm going to catch you doing the same thing. We have to learn to let go of the mentality of, I know you're doing something wrong, and I'm going to catch you, as opposed to, let me come and partner and collaborate with you on solutions to problems that I see that exist now. Don't look back as to what was done wrong. Look forward as to say what you can do better together going forward. If you approach us in a way that is, like I said earlier, professionally and respectful about something we're trying to solve for, and I hate to use her as an example, but I am going to use Robin San Vicente as an example. Every one of us in this city hall says the same thing about her. She has ideas, she has questions, she has things she wants to get done. Never once has she been rude or disrespectful. Although we may not agree with everything she says, and she certainly doesn't agree with everything that we say, but she has a voice that is heard because of how she approaches situations. If there were more people who took a approach that was in that line, then we could get more of those people who have complaints and issues to the table to find solutions to the problems. It's all about the approach.
And she says, thank you for the compliment. And I've always enjoyed talking with Robin, and everybody else that is commented on this show right now. I've just about had verbal conversations with everybody. And that is the beauty in this whole thing. One of the other things that I want to bring out is you've partnered as the city, you've partnered with the radio station and my show. You've partnered with other organizations, and I'll mention one specifically, and which would be Northport Forward.
Right.
For those people, I want to educate them, because I feel like there's a difference between running a website page or Facebook page, social media page, and what we're doing.
Right.
The refusal to participate because you don't want to is almost the result of lack of communication to find the answer to open dialogue. So what I want to say though is, and what I want to throw back at you is, we're not sounding boards for the city. We're conduit to what everybody's saying you're not, which is transparency. You
Right.
literally have sat here for an hour and 34 minutes, gave an overview, and have been Q&A in it now with not knowing what the questions are. You do the same thing at Northport Forward. The commissioners do the same thing. Staff does the same thing. This is a dialogue that is transparent beyond belief, because we didn't have this 20 years ago. But go ahead.
There are some communities in this area that don't have that today. You know, we put ourselves out there, and I love to be out in Northport Forward with our team because they're so passionate and they're so smart, and I love to hear them answer the questions. And I'm not the kind of person to sit to pretend like I know everything. That's not how we operate. We defer to our subject matter experts. I trust my team and what they know and what they do. And these conversations and being open and transparent is a part of what I think that good government should look like. And I think that should be at all levels: city level, county level, state level. You know, you should be able to answer why you do and what you do it, and then be able to defend your actions as well. And if you're wrong, you acknowledge it and you move on, don't do it again. But if you're right, then you keep making the city or county or state a better place. And that's how you sleep at night, knowing that you did the best job you could do, and you wake up and you repeat it again. And that's how the job goes. But giving back to your community and being available for your community, I think, go hand in hand. And I'm very grateful and glad of how we treat our citizens here, and make ourselves accessible.
So I'm going to ask, because we've got some viewers out there on social media, do you have any more questions for Mr. Fletcher? He's our city manager, and he's here to Q&A it with you right now. And if you don't, we'll exit. But if you do, he's more than happy to answer those questions. So please post it. But I'm going to slide into just the upcoming events. Can you talk about them again with what's coming up with the city?
Yeah. So I'm going to start. I'm just going to do next week, so people can understand. Next week at 9 a.m. in the commission chambers, we will be talking about the budget recommendation that we gave to the commissioners. It is going to be an all-day event from like 9 to 5. That we will come back the next day and go through the departments that we didn't finish on the first day, and go through all of those, probably from 9 to, let's just say, hopefully it ends at noon, but it'll go as long as it needs to go. After that, we're going to have, fire, rescue, road and drainage, and solid waste meetings, and our determination of rates not to exceed, all important to the budget process. For you to say, I care about the city of Northport, I care about how they're spending money, but never attend a budget meeting to raise any sort of issue, that's a problem. And we've been talking about the budget now for the last 3 to 4 months, and we've had public meetings, we've had times of inclusion. All of that's been done. All of that happens next Monday and Tuesday. It is very important for people to understand the budget that we have and how we are spending the money and how we prioritize where we put our money. On next Wednesday, the 26th at 10 a.m., there's a special meeting with the commission to discuss the next phase of the conversation about the borrowing authority, the debt management policy draft. We're talking about the charter amendment language, the ordinance language. All of that will continue next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Next Wednesday at 6 p.m., the Northport Forward Economic Development Community Meeting happens at the Hampton Inn and Suite, 6 p.m. on the 26th. On the 27th, there is another Northport United meeting at Lakeside Plantation Community, and that is at 6 p.m. We have a ton of opportunities for community engagement next week to help people who want to get involved and become aware of how they can watch their government. I think I see Hope is on YouTube. All of their meetings are on YouTube. So all of next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday will all be on YouTube. The meeting that we have in the evening with Northport Forward, I don't believe they're on YouTube. Oh, you will be there?
I'll be there.
So if John's there, then we will have visual coverage as well. We have nothing, to hide in those meetings. And we're glad that John is there because everybody can't make it out to a community meeting. That's unrealistic in this day and age. And I'm glad that we're able to use the virtual capacities that we have in order to satisfy and meet our community where they're at.
I was worried about him, but he showed up. Chuck,
I know, right? I was put up the APB.
I was like, Chuck hasn't been around. Where's Chuck been?
We'll see you Monday, Chuck. Yeah.
He said, "Nice discussion, gentlemen. See you on Monday, Mr. Fletcher." So
I'll be there.
Chuck, have a great weekend. I appreciate you, bro. Vanessa said excellent, so she appreciated the feedback there. And I'll also say this: that everything that's going on there, the accusation of no transparency, I'm just going to call BS, because you just heard a list, and that's 1 week. That's 1 week of total transparency, and that doesn't include anything during the day, does it?
Right. Some of those, the day meetings are the first 2 meetings are during the day. Actually, first 3 are during the day, but they're all recorded if people can't make it and get there. But John, what I would say is, for anyone who says that they want to see more transparency, I would like to know how they would like to see that done. What are we not doing that they think we should be doing? And we can have a conversation about that, because we pride ourselves on being open and transparent. And if we need to do better, I would love to know how.
So I got a question, because I've seen that posted.
Yeah.
It drives me crazy when I see it.
Tell me how.
Right. Not just the city, and I see your effort. I see my effort to get the content out. This isn't content that does anything other than educate people to get involved and get questions answered and information out. That's transparency at its finest. You don't have to do this. The city staff doesn't have to do it.
Yes.
Northport Forward doesn't have to do it.
This is above and beyond. We get praises from other jurisdictions who are not doing this and what we're doing. I think the paper even wrote an article one time that said, you can say what you want to say about the city of Northport, but you can't say they're not transparent based on how much we put ourselves out there. So for someone that says, well, they're not being transparent, I would love to know what you would like us to do differently. And I would answer that.
Here's a thought, Mr. Chuck. Anyways, this is actually not a bad idea, because
I agree.
COVID taught us that we can do things through Zoom. It is amazing. So it would be nice if the boards and the committees, and I think you would actually fill up the committees if this was available, could have online meetings. I think we could do Zoom meetings with that. That's a great point, Chuck.
Yes, but someone else just brought that up this week. And if I'm not mistaken, it is through the law of the state that says you have to have an in-person quorum, and then you can allow people to attend virtually. But you cannot have an online quorum to substitute for an in-person quorum. I think that is a state law, not a city of Northport law, because it might have been Mayor White just asked me about that in the recent week. I'm trying to find what our response was for that.
And Ginger, Miranda, thanks, Ginger, for queuing in here. She says, I believe the governor has to approve Zoom meetings.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
And Vanessa says correct.
Yeah, okay, good. I kind of thought I had that right, but I'm going to be honest, and I'm always honest, but let me be clear. I think Chuck is right on that one. I think that if we could make ourselves easier to get with, then maybe more people would come out and say, hey, I want to get involved. I mean, like you said, we proved that we could do it through the pandemic. But again, I know it's out of our hands, but I totally agree with the thought there. 200%.
Well, and Robin says, to lighten up the conversation a bit, John, I have to say that your skin and color looks good, John. I've been in the sun. I've been riding the motorcycle. I've been doing all kinds of stuff. So I might be a little red. But you know what? As a bald man, I wear red well.
There you go.
And it's all right. I peel and recover. But it's all good. I appreciate that, Robin. That's a great. I guess it's a compliment, but I'll take it. I'll run with it. At 60 years old, to get a compliment every once in a while is not bad. But the funny thing is I'm glad we have the funny side of things. And Robin or Ginger just said I agree with Chuck. There would be more participation. I think it would be off the chain.
Right. It would be tremendous.
And Robin said it was a compliment. So I took it as one, Robin. It's okay. But I like riding the motorcycle way too much not to get out there in the sun. But I probably should wear more sunblock. That's all right.
Just be careful.
Is there a Jerome Fletcher moment, city manager moment, that you would like to talk to staff, citizens, or commission? Is there any rallying cry or anything that you'd like to say?
What I'll say, John, is that, when we started this fiscal year, we told everyone it was going to be the most important year in the history of the city. And it has not disappointed, whether we're talking about the great growth in the hospitals, the YMCA, widening Price Boulevard. We have not disappointed anything with our growth. We're working on the ULDC. That is a very public and progressive process that will help us get better. We're talking about Warren Middle Springs, the Legacy Trail, the budget creation. These are all things that we're dealing with now. But I really want to just make sure people understand that we are at a critical moment in time where we are going to define the future of the city for many decades to come. These legacy projects combined with the vision of the commission to make sure that we're protected in the best way, whether it's financially, through the environment. Those are all things that are going to continue to create a massive positive quality of life for our 90,000 plus citizens. We're going to be at 100,000 people before you know it. We have to keep this momentum going. We have to make sure that we're tackling the hard problems. We're answering the hard questions. We're not running. We're not hiding from anyone. We're bringing people and being inclusive along the way as we go on the journey. But we have to make sure that we continue to be a role model for other governments to follow. And I think that we're setting that way and blazing that path. And I'm very proud of what we're doing here. And again, I'll be the first person to say we don't always get it right, and that's okay, but we always want to get it right. And we're not going to do something that's going to jeopardize the reputation of ourselves or the city as we continue just to make Northport the best city it can be.
So I'm going to end with more of a statement, I guess, to the citizens of Northport, to the commission, to city staff. I want to say thank you. One, I am very blessed to be part of this show through the radio station's efforts, being inspired, believe it or not, to do multiple shows a week, attend meetings, attend all kinds of things, the outreach, film different events, be part of the farmers market events, walk through, educate the consumers of the world, Logo Blue, and all the things that I've learned in our great city. We have greatness within our walls that we talk about within the city. We've had people in our city who have been to the White House multiple times. We have doctors who have been right here in our town who have been, Dr. Lee Gross had been to the White House and sat and explained his concierge physician program. These things are happening within our city. It's amazing when you get out and you start talking to the citizens, not just staff, not just commission, not just the city manager. We have so much to be blessed for with city boundaries. And I'm going to say it. The trees are alive. The trees are well. And there's 17,000 acres that we're not going to do anything with, and we're going to add more to. The city's not looking to stop trees. They're looking to figure it all out, just like the city's looking to figure out the greatness it's going to become. And the easiest way to make our city great, get involved, figure things out, take your lumps, get back up again, and guess what? You're going to win some, you're going to lose some, but the end result is if we all work together, our city will be great. And that's what we need to focus on. And that's my moment for you guys at City Hall and the citizens of Northport. I thank you so much for being part of the show, Jerome. I really appreciate you. You know I do.
My pleasure.
And I look forward to getting into some more civic side of things as we continue, because I had a conversation, as I said to you, with Madison, and we're going to put some strategic planning together to really educate the rapid growth of our city and educate the citizens of our city of how inside city walls it actually operates. And I'm looking forward to doing that.
Sounds great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Have a good night, and you guys be safe on your way home. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you on Monday. Join us at 3:05. I'm not going to tell you who the guest is. It's just a surprise. It's going to be a lot of fun, though. I'll look forward to it. Talk to you on Monday. Bye-bye now.